really joyful to see all of you here today. I want to thank Becky. Yes, we go way back to the John McCain days, and I have thought of John so many times over the last few years. I have thought of him as we see the invasion of Ukraine by the inhuman barbarism of Vladimir Putin. One of my last trips and one of John's last trips was actually to the border, okay, I'm going to tell one funny story before we get to the thing at hand. I was McCain, Lindsey Graham, and me, and we went to all the Baltic states right after Donald Trump had been elected president, but before he was sworn in, because John wanted to make it clear to our allies, you can see how ahead of his time that he was. He wanted to make it clear that we stood with democracies and we stood with them. So these were really big visits. We somehow end up with former Ukrainian President Poroshenko on the front line on New Year's Eve. And first of all, Cindy McCain is texting me, "Where are you? It appears on TV you are in a bunker. Could you tell my husband that I am in Hawaii where he should be?" And so there we are, and they decide they have all this snowing because I'm there, right? So it's a blizzard, and the president comes over to present us with gifts on live TV. And he brings John McCain a Ukrainian assault weapon that was made there, and he's holding it. He brings Lindsay a revolver that's made in Ukraine. And then my gift is coming, and it's in this little box. And I'm like, oh, this is weird. They have these things. And I open it up, and it's 2 daggers. Okay, and so then McCain thought it was so funny he could not stop laughing, and that I got this little thing. And so then afterwards, he somehow got the Ukrainians to give me a matching revolver to Lindsay's. And then, of course, the Navy confiscated everything that we had. And then the end of the tale is that as John, after his horrific diagnosis, I went to visit him at his ranch with my husband, and it was near the end, and he couldn't really talk. But he still had his sense of humor. He looked at me and he says, "What happened to my machine gun?" He then pointed, at the end, he got really weak, and he pointed to a sentence in the book, which will get to where we are right now and why I think you're gathered. And the sentence of that book was, "There's nothing more inspiring in life than fighting for a cause larger than yourself." That's what you are doing today. And the fact that you've come together across some party lines, certainly professional lines for faith and business and activism, and understand that there must be a better way forward when it comes to immigration. I believe in my heart that immigrants don't diminish America, they are America. I believe in my heart, and that's how I got involved in this from the very beginning when I got to the Senate as a brand new senator, when Senator McCain and others asked me to help out. George Bush was president. He valiantly tried to get it done. We then moved into the Obama era, and President Obama, we at least passed a bill through the Senate at that time that was built on the original work done during the Bush administration. Then when Trump came in, of course, there wasn't much advancement. That's a euphemism from Minnesota. But even then, we had a bipartisan group of senators led by Mike Rounds of South Dakota to give Dreamers and temporary status people their and I was in that group of about 16 people with Tim Kaine and others. And then we got gut punched when we were ready to take it to the floor. So that's the history before I get to our bill that I love so much, the Afghan Adjustment Act, of where we are today. And we do have another moment as we see this change going on in the House. Senator Durbin just did a press conference with Alex Padilla and Catherine Cortez Masto and others yesterday about moving the DREAM Act along. And there is some possibility, if we could pair it with some of these other issues with caps and the like, and some of the border issues that we could do. We're certainly schooled in how to make agreements on this in the Senate. We have done it now 3 times. I just can't think of anything more important right now. The last thing I just want to say from an economic standpoint, my state has the lowest unemployment, this was of last month, ever in the country of any state. This is what our governor says. I guess I believe it. But I actually, we're down to like 1%, okay? And we have a lot of pride in our state right now. My friend over here, I just met the Vikings, yes. Beat the Bills, yes. But we need more workers. So even if you look at it from a pure economic standpoint, this makes no sense where we are in our country right now. And so I want to talk a little bit about our bill. Why it's so important. We have to ensure that newly arrived immigrants and refugees have the same shot at success as, say, my great-grandparents did. On my dad's side, my grandparents, one of whom went through Ellis Island. They had a quota on, are you ready for this, Swiss immigrants? Then, before World War II, way back, and he ended up going through Canada and then somehow mysteriously ended up in the US. He actually did not come in legally as far as we can tell. He married my grandma who was legal, and right before World War II, when they had this Alien Act passed, he had to register. He did fine with that, and so he was emboldened. He applied for citizenship. That's when they discovered he'd come through our country twice. He was married. My mom, of course, was one of his kids, and back then it was just like that. They looked at it and they said, we understand, sir, you are a citizen. And I still have hanging on my wall the picture of him with this little bow tie when he got his citizenship 2 weeks before we bombed Pearl Harbor. Who knows what would have happened if he was deported back to Europe at that moment. So that is my background. So when I look at this Afghan story, I think about that, and then I think about the Hmongs. We have the second biggest Hmong population in the country in Minnesota. I think about the people that came over after Vietnam, right? And we worked out a plan for them because they were on our side. We still go to festivals in Minnesota with old Hmong generals who had sided with America during that war. And so we thought it was our patriotic duty to make sure that the people that worked with us were treated well. So let's fast forward to the Afghan Adjustment Act. Right now, more than 75,000 Afghans who sought refuge in our country last summer are living in limbo without any kind of a streamlined pathway to permanent status. And unless Congress acts, these Afghans' only opportunity to get a green card is through our backlogged asylum system, which you're well aware of. I see all the nods of heads of the backlogs, or our overburdened special immigrant visa program. That's why I went to Senator Graham. Okay, it was 4 in the morning while we were voting all night one time, and I ate an Egg McMuffin with him, but it worked. So in the Republican cloakroom, recalling all the work we had done together on this issue with Senator McCain. So Senator Graham and I are leading this bill along with my good friend Senator Blunt. Another reason I want to get it done by the end of the year, he's retiring. Senator Murkowski, who is someone of great courage, and then as well as Senator Coons, who's been incredibly helpful, and Senator Blumenthal. And we're working with other Republicans. Aaron here of our staff has been doing such a great job. And the idea is to provide these newly arrived Afghans with a streamlined pathway to citizenship by them allowing them to apply for permanent legal status after submitting to additional vetting processes. I will note about half of them are quite well known to our military. They have worked with them, and so we've kind of made sure that that is a factor in all of this in terms of their advancement. Our bill creates a fast-tracked application process for those who supported our mission. It also expands the special immigrant visa program for those who work directly with the U.S. military to include previously omitted groups, such as the female tactical teams of Afghanistan. As I noted, it is modeled after other bipartisan bills that Congress has passed after previous humanitarian crisis. I have talked to George Bush about this bill. He means a lot to him. There are so many people in the military that come up to me just in my own state or across the country all the time that say that we've got to get this done. So my hope is we now have this runoff, if you've heard, in Georgia. I won't go into the politics of my personal feelings on that, but That's December 6th. And so the hope would be that after December 6th, with the NDAA or one of these other bills, we would try to attach this. That's what we are working on right now with Senator Reid, who leads the Armed Services Committee, and others. We don't know exactly the path. We're just going to do everything to get it done. And I have met with these Afghan families, both in Washington and at home, and I can't tell you just how their feelings of some of outrage because of what they did for our country, but mostly of gratefulness, gratefulness to a country that has taken them in when they were in a very, very dangerous situation. And we certainly owe it to them to stand by their sides. So this is, for me, one of the most important bills I've ever led in this area. I've done one with making sure doctors can stay in the country and work on survivors of domestic abuse, and of course the big bills we got through the Senate Judiciary Committee, the comprehensive reform, and all the work we've done. But as I think about my end of the year, when I think about standing at our, which we always do on Christmas Eve with my family holding the candles as they sing Silent Night, I'm going to be thinking about these Afghan refugees, and I want to get this done. And we're not going to be able to get this done without your help. So I want to thank you for whatever, you come from such different backgrounds and willing to use the strength of your backgrounds for such a good cause, whether it is business, whether it's out of law enforcement, whether it is out of activism, whether it is out of your faith. So thank you so much, and let's get this done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator Klobuchar, for being here, for your leadership. Since 2018, the forum has presented the Courage to Lead Award to leaders who are bold and willing to work across the aisle, and you certainly are one of those. We greatly appreciate the work you've done on the Afghan Adjustment Act. We are also just as passionate, and we hope to see it pass this year alongside you. And we thank you for your longstanding support of bipartisan immigration solutions for dreamers, immigrant healthcare workers, and so much more. It is my honor to present you with the 2022 Courage to Lead Award.